pleasure to be here, and I'm so glad you're all here, and it does smell really good. I hope you all enjoyed one. So there's a little booklet that was all kind of passed out to you, and we're going to kind of go into, I got to hear the last part, and Barb and Sandy and Shannon talk to you guys about goals and orientation and horses and what you're all are going to do. And so this is a method that I'm developing actually, and it's called a toolbox. It's about cutting, or it's about buying a dog, or it's about building a house, or it's about anything you want to do. And this is a toolbox and a methodology in order to achieve your results and to achieve your goals. So I had the pleasure, the lady I ride with and is a partner of mine, Star Whitley, who I'm on her ranch in Brenham, Texas, took me to a seminar called the Breakthrough Experience with a man named John DeMartini. And anybody that, if you can Google it, he's a brilliant man and a good friend of Star's, and she's known him for over 20 years, so she speaks that language. So it was an amazing experience for me. So I took parts of that I utilized and I used in my life and in sports and in cutting. From my early beginning childhood, I wanted to ride a horse. I was born and raised in a city in San Francisco, California. I didn't have anything to do with the horses. My parents had nothing to do with the horses. My mother is an alcoholic. She killed herself when I was 20. My father raised me basically on his own. And he had nothing to do with horses, so I started hanging around Golden Gate Park when I was 13, and I decided I wanted to train horses. I don't know why. I came out of the womb that way, for some reason. Why? I don't know. Just kind of happened that way. And so I was a jack of all trades and a master of none. I rode jumpers, I did 3-day pony club, I rode pleasure horses, I showed Arabs, and the first cutting I ever saw was at I was showing a half Arab and a stock horse in Paso Robles in Santa Barbara, California. We were at a show. I needed another point for an all-around. And I entered this horse in the cutting. I'd never seen a cutting before, so my first cutting is an Arabian cutting. And so I thought, my God, this is amazing that a horse, if you could turn it loose, and it's going to work the cow by itself. So to me, mind is fascinating. I work with dogs. And I used to work with the San Mateo Police Department with German Shepherds and training dogs. So my brain works in a very disciplined fashion. So I thought, this is amazing that these horses could do this. So a friend of mine knew Larry Reeder when he was alive and was a horse trainer here in Texas. And he had just won the Futurity in 1978. And I read about him the following night, 6 months later, and I go, hey, look at this guy, Larry Reeder, and this guy, blah, blah, blah. She goes, I know Larry Reeder. She goes, hey, let's just save up some money. And we're good friends. We partied all the way to Texas. Met all kinds of different interesting men. And I was 21 at the time, so who cares? And I spent a week with Larry Reeder, and I quizzed him about cutting. And when I got home, we partied all the way back. And when I got home, he offered me a job. And I was single at the time. And he said, I've never hired a girl before, but $1 a month, you have to pay your own rent. That was college for me. Okay? So I moved to Texas, and that was it. And I moved to Texas, and the first Futurity I saw was in 1979 when Linda Birch was reserve champion to Bill Freeman. A lot of people to this day still think she should have won it. And it was an amazing experience. And I will tell you what I just did at that point in time. It was like when I was a kid and I decided to train horses. When I walked into Will Rogers Coliseum, and after the first day that I witnessed that, I said, I'm going to win this. I made a decision. And when we talk about methodology and about a toolbox and about your goals, it's a decision you have to come to. Whatever it is that you're going to do in life, it doesn't matter what it is, make a decision to be successful. Make a decision to be your best self. Make a decision to be whatever it is that you want to be, and don't let anybody deter you from that. And when we talk about methodology, then whatever it is that you've decided that you want to do, then there's basics to go through. And I use sports as an analogy a lot of time. When you are in Little League, you are aspiring to play in the World Series, and anybody that hasn't seen the captain yet with Derek Jeter about being a New York Yankee. An amazing story about a kid that grew up in the Bronx and wanted to be a New York Yankee and became one of the greatest baseball players ever. Same thing with Tom Brady. Tom Brady, who is a 7-time Super Bowl champion. Do you know what Super Bowls he remembers the most? Anybody? The one he didn't win. Those are the ones that haunt him to this day. And that's the chip he carries on his shoulder to inspire him every year to be better than he was the previous year. So when you think a champion has a different mentality, and that's the kind of mentality that these ladies are inspiring with you today, is to create that within yourselves, no matter what you want to do, whether it's trail riding, okay, cutting, rein cow horse, shot, doesn't matter, Tennessee Walkers, Shawnee Arabians, hunter jumpers. It doesn't really matter what you want to do in the equestrian world, as long as you make a decision to do it. And to what degree do you want to do it? And to what, and you'll change. I will tell you that Shannon, when she first came to me, has different goals today than she did then with horses. And how she looks at a horse then versus how she looks at a horse today is a completely different thing. We were talking about buying and selling horses. So she asked me, I said, have you ever been to one of those great big horse sales? And she bought her first horse in San Antonio. We'll let her tell you that story. I'll tell you about that story later. And she goes, have you sat through those futurity sales? This thing? No, she said. I said, well, I'm going to introduce you to a man. His name is Bob Cunningham and Justin Cunningham. And I said, I want you to go meet Bob, and you're going to go watch horses with Bob. Would you like to talk about that little story for just a second?
Yeah, I sure would.
Okay.
I'm like, this is awesome. So, Bob Cunningham is amazing. He has looked at thousands of horses. You'll see him listed on cutting horse training online, talk about conformation, what he looks for. And I spent a week with him. However, Kathy sends me there, and she says, yeah, just go, Bob will take care of you. And about the 4th day, after about the 1500th horse, I started to get mad. I was like, you might be wondering why I was mad. I was mad because I was like, she set me up. Because she knew that that was the experience that I needed to learn what I needed to learn about looking at horses and seeing hundreds of horses. How do they act? How do they look? What do they look like? What do they sell for? What do they look like? What do they sell for? And then learning from Bob. Nope, not that one. See that little thing right there? See what they did to his feet right there to make his knees look straight? Yeah. And so in the beginning, I was like, I'm going to go by myself, all by myself. Yep, you're going to go all by yourself. It was just a little bit of, but it was the best thing ever. Because I looked at thousands of horses that week and got to ask questions and got to study, because down in the tunnel, like right now they're selling horses right now, and I'd look at a colt and I'd walk through the door and then I'd listen to see what they sold for. I was like, well, why did that horse sell for what it was? That was the time I didn't even know about x-rays and how x-rays are scored and evaluated and how you can find out information before. And so it was an amazing experience. But she's the one that prompted me to do it.
So this is the toolbox that we're going to start looking at, and you can scroll through it with me, and then we look at chapter 1. And you have to start somewhere. You have a dream, right? So what you think about, you bring about. Okay? It's very true. So whatever endeavor you're going to start, the basics have to be implemented. Practice, understand, practice more. And success has to start within. Everybody, you have to decide that you're going to be successful in whatever you want to do. And if you're shy or not sure of yourself, or as Shannon was, go for it. Decide to be the best part of yourself. You're going to be confusing. You're going to fail. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with failures. Failures are your keys to successes. It's how you fail and how you look yourself in the mirror the next day. And it's just a learning curve. One of the great things that I heard from Sandy and from Barb and from Shannon is those encouraging things about the mental philosophy, about a sports psychology. It's all very, very important, but also the basics and the physical basics are very important as well. You have, if you want to be your best version of yourself, be a healthy version of yourself. Eat well, sleep well, feel good about yourself. Those are things that are very, very important in your life. There's a reason why when you get on an airplane and they talk about crashing, you've got kids there with you or people you're taking care of, they tell you to take care of yourself first. Because if you don't love yourself, if you don't respect yourself, if you're not good to yourself, there's no way you can be good to anybody else around you, or can you be part of that team that these girls keep talking about. It's so important to look inside. All the answers are always within. That doesn't mean you don't need coaching. It doesn't mean you don't need better horses. It doesn't mean that you don't need a team, but it has to come here first. First, it has to be here. Okay, so your beliefs become your thoughts. And your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions, okay? So when you look at this, and you read in through this, you want to know what you're getting into, okay? So you have a dream. I want to ride a cutting horse. What are you going to do about that? What kind of a cutting horse do you want? Where do you want? Do you want to show a cutting horse? Do you just want to take lessons? What do you want with this cutting horse? Okay? How are you going to yell? So Shannon went to some cuttings. She met a Frank. Didn't you start with Frank? Oh, no. Who was it there? What was his name? Danny. So there's a guy local that she met that he had some cutting horses, and she rode with him. And it was great for a little while until she kind of got her feet wet, and then she desired to do more. And then you start reading more. You have to do your due diligence. If you're going to buy a house, there's a reason you use a real estate agent, and there's contracts and inspectors, and you look at the foundation. If you don't have a good foundation, it doesn't matter how beautiful your house is, it's going to crumble around you if you don't have a great foundation. It is so imperative. It is imperative with the horse too. And the idea, I want to learn with my horse, and please shoot me in the head. Shoot me. That is so dangerous for people to do. And so many people get sucked into that. I want to get a young horse and we're going to learn together and it's going to be wonderful. That is not true. And please don't do that. And if you're a trainer out there, please tell everybody that that's the craziest thing you've ever heard in your life. Do you know the movie all about Marley, about the dog? Has everybody seen that movie? Yeah. I can't watch it. I'd shoot the dogs. Not literally, but almost. Because I come from that methodology of discipline and I don't have kids, I've never birthed a kid, but I've raised a lot of kids throughout my career. Just like Sandy has and Barb has and Shannon is. And yes, sir, and yes, ma'am is a thing of respect. And it means it's a lot of importance. And I expect a dog and a horse to do the same thing. Dogs, horses, and kids are all the same in my mind in terms of how they act and how they're trained and how they are from birth. So very few kids and people are supposed to be smarter than animals, but very few kids in hostile environments growing up in very, very bad backgrounds. You hear about the inspiring stories of the ones that make it. There's a whole bunch of thousands of kids that live on the streets that never make it because they don't have a mentor and nobody ever taught them and they don't know what they're doing and they don't have a way to go. So basics are so, so, so important with horses and with people. So when you are training a horse and when you're teaching a horse, they have found with young horses, the horses that we get now and the cutting horses, because they're so well bred but they're also handled a lot. So the old Remuda, like the horses aren't being touched until they're 2 or 3 years old, that doesn't exist very often anymore. And those horses that we have today, those horses that are in the sale, they've been handled, they've been tied up, they've been washed, they've had slinkies and blankets put on them. Those horses, to saddle them, to take them into a cutting horse program is so much easier than the horses that are untouched. And I want to leave my horse untouched, and I'm just going to get on him and buck him out and he'll be great. No, not anymore, not in today's day and age. So that's keeping up with the times. That's part of your toolbox. When you're building a toolbox, when you're building up what you want to do, what you aspire to do, how you want to grow, you want to create a toolbox that will change over the years. A horse that Shannon looked at that she loved 10 years ago is a horse that she wouldn't consider and probably wouldn't even have on a ranch today. Isn't that true? So what I will tell you, we love horses. But we are a group of people that also want to ride really good horses, talented horses, well-bred horses. So there's different kinds of people in our lives that doesn't matter if you want to be a plumber, a housewife, or an electrician, or a Phi Beta Kappa student, or a rocket scientist. It doesn't matter. We all have different personalities. We all have different learning abilities. But whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you are inspired to do it the very best way, and have the very best team around you. But it, again, here is where it starts. It has to be from here, and it has to be from within, and from that knowledge, and from that basic foundation of what you want to create for yourself. Until you actually, your thoughts become your actions, nothing will happen. So you have a dream. With this dream, you say, how am I going to make this dream be a reality? Then you implement some things to make this dream become a reality, and then you have to actually take a step in that direction. You have to pick a foot up, and you have to pick up the phone, you have to have an email, and you have to contact that person that you think can help you the most. It may not be the person that you use forever, and it may be somebody that's a lifelong friend. But that's how you start to learn. And the more diverse you get with your people, at the same time I say be diverse, stay steadfast and in your lane too. So look around, see what's out there, see who inspires you. There's a lot of trainers in today's day and age, especially the younger guys. Daughn is one of the greatest hands I've ever seen on a horse. He is unbelievable. To get into his barn though, it's very difficult, it's very expensive, and he's about himself. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have amateurs and a lot of different riders. He's there riding 110 horses at his place. It's extraordinary, okay? He's got 2 or 3 assistant trainers. To get into his barn, you gotta have one of his best horses. That's how you make it in that barn. It's just the way it is right now, you know? So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't aspire to that and to have that, right? But in the meantime, understand what that takes. What does that take to have that kind of a horse? What does it take to have and to raise a Futurity champion? I did that. It was great. I bought the mare, I talked myself up to my eyeballs, bought Royal Blue Dooley for $64,000. I didn't have the money, I borrowed it, paid it back within 6 months. And I made the semifinals here. I was one of the high horses going in, and I lost a cow in the semifinal. It broke my heart. I thought, oh my God, my career's over. It wasn't. I was okay the next day. I made the finals the next year, and it was okay. But I did breed her to J. Bar Fletch, which was one of my favorite all-time horses. And I raced Raw Fletch and won the Futurity in 2000, which was an amazing thing because I thought, well, this breeding thing's not so complicated. It's okay. I spent the next 7 years trying to breed that mare again, and I had one get crippled as a weanling. I had one with that a lady, I sold it to a lady who was supposed to leave it in training and it went somewhere else and she did something else with it. I mean, there were so many really, really good horses but didn't ever get to that pinnacle of success, right? So all of the horse business is really a crapshoot. So really, really pay attention. Pay attention, do your due diligence, create your toolbox, create it from your actions, get involved with great people. If somebody doesn't ring true with you, if you don't like what you see in that barn, don't stay. Don't stay. But understand and learn from everybody. Sometimes you're going to learn, and what I say is what you don't want, and then actually I change that verbiage to what you won't accept. So what you won't accept is your horse not being properly taken care of. Barb covered that. There's a lot of trainers in this world that are great trainers, and they are certainly good horsemen, and they win, but they don't ever go to the barn. They have somebody do all that, they hire that out, they have girls that do that, or guys that do that, they bring them the horses, they have 20 of them in training, and they go one after another. When I worked for Larry Reeder, that I worked for him for 3 years, the last year I worked for him, we rode 110 horses a day, there were 6 of us, and we rode them every day. It was an assembly line. And the best horses were in his string. At that time, I had the second string, the second best string, and we worked, every single horse got trained in that environment, in that barn. He was a machine, okay? And it was a great learning experience, it's a great work ethic. There's not a horse that you're gonna send me that I'm not gonna train. I'll train it, or I'll tell you to pick it up, or I don't like it, but I'm gonna train it. When I went to, and I've been to several trainers, top money earning trainers, and their bottom horses, they're terrible. I mean, you can't turn around this room, let alone compete on them. But they have a volume, and they train from a volume standpoint in terms of they want to see as many horses as they can. Daughn actually said, and he would tell you that he said this, bought a horse that I wouldn't have purchased because they were the price. They wanted $250,000 for the stud, and I said, why are you buying that horse? He goes, he might be really good, and I might have to beat him, so it's okay, and I've got somebody to buy it. True, and it's okay, because they did fine with it. He never showed it in the open, because it didn't achieve that goal, but it was good for somebody else. And they certainly had it trained, and it was fine, and it won some money, and it's great. But understand what you're getting into, and understand where you want to go. Understand completely and for sure how you want to go about your horses and your business. I will tell you a story at Shannon's house. The first time she had me come to her house and do a clinic, there was a lady, a wonderful lady, Debbie, and she had a helmet on, and she was riding the Appaloosa, and she was having a lot of struggles with this horse. This horse was not a good horse. I call it a pickle. It wouldn't stop. It gapped its mouth wide open, tried to run off with her. She goes, would you get on it? And I said, absolutely not. I wouldn't get on it. I want to kill you. Matter of fact, you need to get off. Right now, get off this horse, please. And I had brought 2 of my horses. I have one old turnback horse. He's deceased now, and he won over $100,000. He's a great horse and a great teacher. So I put her on him, and I said, ride this horse. I said, you can even take your helmet off. It's okay. He's not going to do anything. She goes, really? And I go, yeah. Go walk. And I said, just take your feet out of him and tell him, whoa. Well, she did. She goes, oh my God, stop. From this point, so after that day, we let her get her confidence up, and Shannon had this wonderful buckskin or rodeo horse named Tibby, and she goes, I'll never sell that horse. I'm going to keep her forever. The next day, Debbie bought Tibby, and it did nothing but success. What did Debbie do the first year she rode Tibby? Tell me. Got her first buckles. Yes, all that. All of it. So the moral to the story is that there are so many great horses in this world. There are so many wonderful horses that can do anything that you want to do. Anything. Trail riding, jumping, cutting. Buy a good horse. Buy a horse that's really well trained and will suit you. And conformation, form to function is so, so important. Okay? It's like I can't be an NBA basketball player or a WNBA basketball player. I'm too short. I'm not knee and pigeon toe. I can't do it physically. So the same thing with the horse. If you buy a 17-hand thoroughbred, it's not going to be fast enough to be a cutting horse. Even if it's cowy, most thoroughbreds, most people don't know this, are very, very cowy. Most thoroughbreds are very, very cowy. And they're sturdy cows, actually, but they're not fast enough. They're not quick-footed enough. So conformation, soundness is a huge, huge thing that people think, oh my God, this horse is so beautiful. Buy it, it'll be okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. And what they're talking about in terms of safety and buying horses is so important to go with somebody that's knowledgeable. How do I find that person? If you have a trainer or know of somebody that does have a trainer, ask. Please ask. There are so many, I don't know of very few trainers that won't help or guide you to somebody that will help you. Barb Schulte's dad was actually Bob Cunningham's mentor. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. So your dad helped Bob get started. He's a pitcher. So, and he told him, he said, come pick up this horse. And there's some horse that I don't know Bob said, and he says, and do something with it. Tell me what you get done with it, and then we'll keep going. So that's how you start. And there's so many people that will help you. And I can guarantee you that there's several horse trainers in this building, and Patty and Shannon, whether it's me or Barb, you can pick up the phone to any one of us and say, hey, I want to buy a trail riding horse, and I live in northern Alaska. I will tell you, we'll help you find somebody that will help you. We will find somebody. The horse business is a very small business, and we're tight-knit throughout the country. If I'm broken down in Rhode Island, which I've never been to, I promise you I can find somebody that has a horse that would help me. It just is the way that our world works. So you always have a friend. You will always have somebody that will help you. And even if somebody is, maybe there's also some people that would take advantage and get a little bit more money than they should. That's certainly has been true of this business and every other business that you've ever been in. And you have to be careful about that. But there again, you have to do your due diligence. Okay? And that's why you want to ask and get to people that you know of in situations like this, in the seminar, that will take you to that level of expertise and of help in any kind of endeavor you want to do. So when we look at our toolbox, when you're starting a program, we were talking about judging a little bit. I recommend this to anybody and everybody. If you are in a judged event, go to a judge's seminar. All my people that have ever ridden with me, I expect them to go to attend a judge's seminar. Don't complain about your run till you know how it's judged and what's going on. You really must have that knowledge. That's part of your toolbox. Attend those judging clinics. Know what the judge is looking at. You are making a presentation. There was a question posed about how do I look at myself and not think I have a big butt in the movie. Okay? Take your face out. It doesn't exist. It doesn't matter who it is. Be a third person. That's not you. That's just you're a judge now. You sit down and you look at that film as a judge. What do I see in this picture? What can make this picture be better? Because you're making a presentation. What's going to make this picture look better? Okay? Is it the way I hold my hand? Is it the way I started my rundown? Is it my mannerisms? Is it my horse's behavior? So if I walk into a herd of cows, and the whole idea of cutting is to have your horse walk quietly through the herd, right? I pick a cow out of that 10 head or 60 head, and I make a presentation of putting that horse in the middle of the pen, holding at least 2 cows, no more than 3, no less than 2, for 2.5 minutes. I am presenting a show. to that judge, saying, my horse can do this better than yours. And that's actually how cutting got started, way back in the day, right? There was bragging rights. And you see some of that nonsense a little bit fabricated on Yellowstone, and about working cows, but they were all trail bosses, the old guys, the ranch owner and the ranch manager had their cutting horse, it was the only horse that usually got to stay in the barn. And it got to stay in the barn because it was the best horse to sort those calves. It was the best horse to sort the bulls from the cows, from the babies from the mamas, and they started to have contests, and that's how that all began. So we have taken that heritage and embellished it into this beautiful show that you're going to see. And I encourage you, doesn't matter if you have cutting horses or if you have jumpers, but to watch a 3-day event horse, to watch a horse go through a 3-day event course and never walk that horse, that's the most extraordinary thing. And so that a horse does dressage, roads and tracks, cross country, and then a preliminary course is amazing. It's truly amazing. And a horse, I don't know if everybody knows this, but a horse has 360 vision almost, okay? But they don't see down, they have very poor depth perception, and they have very poor vision right there in front of them, okay? So for a horse to do a blind jump down into a steep water and then jump out of it, and to walk that course, I'm talking about you're sliding down on your butt on your 2 feet, let alone a horse's on your riding horse's back. It's amazing to see what horses do. Transpose that to tomorrow when you see the open semifinals and the finals. These are 3-year-olds. 2 years ago, at this time, they weren't even broke to ride. They weren't even broke to ride. And you will see the guys and girls calling upon these horses for everything they're worth, and these things will try to break their legs to hold a cow. It's extraordinary. It will bring tears to your eyes if you see, and they love it. People think, oh my God, it's so cruel. I hear all that stuff. I'm going to tell you, there has never been a horse that I've ever ridden that was a champion horse that didn't love it. They love it, and they know it, and they know when the crowd's on, and those great horses, they light up. It's no different than Michael Jordan when he's playing in the NBA playoffs. It is extraordinary. Glitter Bowser Dulce is a horse that belonged to Pete Wrench, and she was reserve champion at the Futurity several years ago. And on her way out of getting her reserve champion, she bucked all the way down the hall. And it just was so expressive about They love doing it. I've never seen a horse that was a champion that didn't love it. And so people that don't know horses are the only people that think that that's cruel. It's the only ones. They have no idea how much a horse loves to do what they do. Because really, you've seen horses be punished or abused or things like that. With cutters, that doesn't last very long. If they don't like it, they're not doing it. And so many times, what distinguishes a great horse to me is not just the ones that win and they're champions, but it's the one that ignores their riders when they need to. So they're like, I'm going to kick you really hard right now. The horse goes, I don't care, I'm going over here with that. Those are the great ones, right? And our sport, and this is what's so great about cutting, is that we actually have horses that do that. That they are so tied to that cow, they're so well trained, and they're so happy to be out there that they will ignore a rider. They will say, I'm sorry, you're wrong, we're going to go over here. So it's a thing of beauty to watch, and I encourage all of you to go see it. It's really an amazing sport. Videos nowadays. Videos is so important, but it's so important. They have a saying in football, quarterbacks have to have the shortest memories. Why do they say that? Because if you throw an interception, the next time you better throw a touchdown. So you have to have a very short memory. If you mess up, it does you no good to beat yourself up. I did that for a long time, okay? It doesn't do you any good. So I bought a ranch in Gonzales, Texas with a friend of mine, was a partner of mine, because her kids were close, and it doesn't matter, but anyway, we owned this ranch for 20 years. And rather than just take care of myself, which I started off as just being an open trainer, my non-pro was Sandy Manelli, who's also won $4 million. So, and she could train horses, she just didn't have to. So, when you have horses like that, and when you are learning, you have to have someone help you and see things through a different lens than just yourself. So videoing now with the technology we have, video yourself. I mean, that's part of your toolbox. What do you need to do to be successful? Be honest with yourself. Be honest about your horse. Be honest with what you're doing every day. Are you, and there's so many excuses. I don't have time. I don't have time to practice today. I don't have time to meditate. Those are all excuses. So if you really want to be successful, decide to be successful. Decide and make it part of your daily mantra. Somebody asked the question, I want to know a mantra. Here's what I'm going to tell you about. Positive affirmations, they're all great, and they're very important. And as you do more basics, as you learn more, your mantras will change. And here's what I'm going to tell you about that. In terms of horsemanship and how you ride and how you do things and the discipline that you invoke in a horse and in yourself, those mantras will change. So mine simply is do my job. When I step in front of the judges stand and I go down to the timeline, I have to assume my horse is prepared as good as it can be. I have to make the assumption that my attack is intact. I have to make the assumption that my shirt is buttoned and it's on my body. I have to make the assumption that my chaps are on and my boots are on and my spurs are on and my bridles are on. All those things have to be done prior to walking into that herd. When I go to the herd, here's my job, is to cut 3 fresh cows, dead center of that pen, or the best cows I can cut if I can't cut a fresh one, and present a picture to that judge for 2.5 minutes to create success. What's success? Success is having my horse show the best of its ability and me doing my job for that horse to show its ability. The success takes care of itself. Barbara alluded to that earlier. If you do your job, if your basics are what they're supposed to be, if you're riding the best horse that you can ride, perhaps that score doesn't reflect a winning, quote unquote, run, but it reflects a winning run for yourself, and it's the best you can be. And then you take that run and that horse and you dissect it. Is this horse good enough to be where I want it to be? And it doesn't mean you don't like this horse, and it doesn't mean that this horse doesn't have to take somebody else that's a beginning rider and take it to the same place that you're now at. But buy the best horse that you can possibly afford. It is so important that when you reach a stage of success and you have done all you can with that horse, that you take the next step. And that means that that horse is still a great friend of yours. And you want that friend to go on and meet other friends and teach that another person the same thing that it's taught you. But now it's time for you to move on. There's nothing wrong with that. And some horses then make great practice horses. So Star Whitley, she has 2 horses that are really good. She's been very competitive on one, Houston on one, marked her first 75 on the other one. She's going to take those horses next year and she's going to work them herself. Train them herself. I may interject a thought or two, may ride them once in a while, but now it's time for her to take that next step. She got out of the limited amateur in 1 season, and actually in 6 months. She won $50,000 that fast. So now this year, fast forward to this year, she's had a few struggles. Why? Because she had really good horses to ride, very well trained. She is a really good rider. She's very intelligent. She's got a psychology degree, so she's very mentally tough. But now the skills had to catch up to that level because she is now in the intermediate and the unlimited amateur, which, by the way, she just made the finals on both classes this year. Futurity, second time she's ever shown at Futurity. There's luncheon. Very good. So with that, and why I say now she has to take a step even further, because she's got this meteoric rise, and then she kind of hit a wall, right? And went down a little bit and got down on herself. So she's also she also has a psychological mentor that she uses. Because whatever tool you can use and whatever tool you need to get better, do it. If you need to call upon somebody to help you win, how are you going to do that? Get better. Decide to be better. Decide to be your best self. Decide every day. Not once in a while and, oh my God, I failed today. Decide that morning. That's not a failure. It's just something else in your toolbox that you have to acknowledge. Okay? Decide every day to be your best self. We are energetic beings. Sandy and Barb both talked about that. Your old patterns are going to always try to come back and haunt you. Why? We are not really solid beings. You know that you're not solid. You know that you're made up of electromagnetic and atomic particles, right? They all come together to form this solid body, this table, the table you're sitting in. But we're really not. So on this planet, on this earth, electromagnetic fields come together and they want to stay in this pattern. So that, oh, I just don't feel like it today. You know what? I'm going to take the day off. Okay? That's what happens, because it's a pattern that you've developed over time, or it's not. And you decide, you know what? That's not going to be me anymore. I am going to take 20 minutes to do a meditation. I do have time. I'll get up 20 minutes earlier and I'll meditate. I'll call a psychological coach. I'll go to Jim Lair program. I'll do the John D. Martini method. I will be my best self. You have to decide. That's your toolbox. Those are the tools you're going to put in it. As you grow and as you change, it will also change. That toolbox will change. The tools and the horses that you started off with, they're no longer serve you anymore. They can serve somebody else, but they don't serve you. So move to that next stage and then increase your toolbox. What is a toolbox? It could actually be a box that you put mementos in, if you put your journal in. Doesn't matter what it is, but make it be something that is for you, for yourself, for your progress, and inspire yourself and be around inspirational people. You are a product of your environment. If you're in a downer environment, change it. Don't try to change the people around you. Be in an environment that's conducive to you and to where you want to be. Be in a positive, great environment. You're responsible for yourself. Happiness is your decision. It is not something, oh my God, I just want to be happy. Oh my God. Be happy. Decide to be happy. Decide to be successful. Decide to have a great horse. Decide. Make it be your best life. This is a great life we have here on this planet. Use it to your greatest benefit in all things that you do. Okay? I will also ask you now that when we talk about the cutting basics, if you just go to the back page of this, flip it over. This basics start and can be part of anything you want it to be. This toolbox is a life toolbox. So it's in cutting basics, in dog training basics, in shop basics, in going to school basics. Know the rules. Know the rules of your sport. Know the rules of the game you want to play. What is it? Understand how a judge arrives at a score. If you don't have a scored event, a judged event, and you barrel race, okay, understand different arena conditions. Understand the distances between the barrels. Understand between a long arena and a short arena. Understand what horse runs best, how they run, what they do. Learn about cows. If you don't know about cows, one of the things that struggled with a little bit was knowing cows. You've never been around cows before. She'd ridden horses all her life, but not cows. Cows is an interesting thing. So one day we were talking about it, and she has a very strong intuition. And I said, talk to the cows. And she goes, what? I go, if you want to hold a cow, I said, there's some cows out there. I said, see the red one out there? I said, hold that cow and tell her to stand still while you let all the other cows go. And she goes, oh my God, it worked. Cows have intuition too. Horses have intuition too. Talk to them. Really feel what you're doing. It works. So if you have a cow, just like people, there's crazy people. You go to a party, there's a crazy person. You want to associate with that person? Absolutely not. If they let a crazy cow and then you're going to take this thing down the thing, you're going, oh my God. Well, if you don't get the whistle like you get a new cow, then how are you psychologically going to fix that cow? So sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. But the first thing you do is mentally talk to that cow, like lock and load right there. Spatial recognition on a fast cow. Back off, hold it. Teach that cow that you can get to it and stop it and stop it and stop it and stop it before you ever take it down the fence. Your chances of success are exponentially greater. Okay? In practicing, how are you going to practice? Again, basics are everything. Also, speed of the game. When you play Little League, when you step up into high school, when you step up into college, the speed of the pitch, the players that you start playing with are all better. When you go into the nationals and the professional level, that's the best of the best. So college football is way different from the pros. It's the speed of the game. They talk about the speed of the game and the game slowing down to you. So this is another part of the mental acuity and the mental process. It's great to think about it. It's great to meditate about it. It is great to challenge yourself mentally and know the rules of the game. But until you actually participate at the speed of the game, you cannot understand it. The speed of the game is the speed of the game. So at the professional level, and I know all of you can go, oh my God, that's way too, I don't understand, that's too fast. So as that happens, then you have to keep stepping back to the basics. The basics will teach you everything, but then you have to go show. You have to go show. I've been showing less this last 2 years than I probably ever have, because I was almost going to quit and then I didn't, but here we are. So Shannon asked me a great question the other day. She goes, do you think you want to win? And I teach a lot more now than I ever used to. Okay, I teach more than I show. She goes, do you think you want to win as much as you ever did when you first started? And I went, no, I don't. But I do now, because I just had a flip. I just switched a flip. Flip the switch. I just flipped the switch the other day. I didn't do very good here in the open. I hot quit. So I don't know if everybody means that means you quit. So Cal was standing there. She stood there for a second. I go, make sure. I go, she stopped, and right when I picked up, she took a foot. So they got me, and she stepped back, and she actually stood there for 20 seconds. They had to run her off to get her back. They still got me.
Now you stand.
Okay? Yes. So, but that's the speed of the game. Okay? In the adrenaline Fort Worth, I'm riding a great horse. So the speed of the game is important. So you have to show in order to feel the speed of the game. You have to participate. You have to go at that pace if you're going to show. So one of the things Star and I talked about is next year we're going to show a lot more. I train great. The training part's not a problem. I can train a horse for anybody to do anything. I've won, not only have I won the Open, there's not a division that I haven't trained a horse for. I've won the very first amateur contest there was. Harlan Radomski won it way back in the day. The limited, non-pro, the non-pro. I've trained horses for all those events, and they've won, and they've been successful in all of them. So the training part of it, I don't question, okay? I never used to question showing either, but I question it now. And I get a little nervous, which I didn't used to do either. I mean, your adrenaline pumps in, but when you walk in front of the judges stand, you go, okay, do my job. That's my mantra, do my job. So, and I keep it very simple, because the do my job part for me now is a lot different than it was years ago. And so the do your job part for Shannon now in terms of teaching and showing is different than it was 10 years ago. So when I say do my job, that the prioritizing of that is relative to what you're doing and where your skill level is. Okay? So when I say do my job, that's what I was talking about before. I make this assumption that all that other stuff is taken care of. Okay? And then my job is to cut those cows, and my job is to know those cows. My job is to know and to recognize. So when those cows are coming around me and I want to cut this red cow right here and she's one on my list, but she's telling me no, and there's a black cow out here that I recognize, and one of my herd holders go, hey, that black cow's up there fresh too, and I know her, okay? And I know her. And the other day when I showed the second go around, I had marked a 16.5 the first round, horse was good, the second go around, I forgot a cow, and I kicked myself because they cut it right after, and she was a better cow, and I knew she was a good cow, and she was on my list, right, and I just let her go, and she wasn't in a spot that I saw, and I kicked myself because that's my job, to know my cows. All that other stuff was good, and I cut a fresh cow, but it wasn't the cow I really wanted to cut, and I should have went and gotten her, because the next two were, and it was much better. So that happens sometimes, and that's part of showing. It just happens. But if you cut a fresh cow, dead center of the pin in cutting, and it runs you over, hey, say la vie. I'm pretty much in the 90th percentile. The cows I pick, and I know Barb was at the time she was showing, the cows that she's going to pick are usually going to be pretty good. And if you cut a fresh cow, dead center of the pin, and it runs over you, you have to have a short memory. That doesn't matter. It's okay. All right? Because it's not going to happen very often, because you are learned at that position. And also your instincts are good, and they get better with time. And you talk to the cows. You literally, a cow will come to you over and over again. You keep seeing her. You're looking at 60 head of cows, but there's 3 cows that you just, I keep noticing this damn cow. Sometimes it's because you don't need to have her also. So you have to make those distinguishing decisions about that. So, all sports, all life endeavors, create a toolbox for yourselves. Believe in yourselves. Believe, decide what you want to do. Use your mentors. Get help. Are there any questions?
If you have any questions, this would be a great time. We have a few more minutes if you'd like to ask Kathy a question.
So working for Larry Reader, you did that for 3 years?
A little over 3 years.
So did you start as a loafer and then you just worked on all the way?
First day I went to work for him, it was 110 degrees and I looked 25 horses. Yes, ma'am.
Betty Sue. Brady Steve.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
They just had a great job.
Same time you were there. My
Yeah.
cousin worked for Larry.
Yeah.
Chuck Frazier.
Yep, he's the one that actually told Tom Bellamy and Larry about Royal Blue Moon, because he was working on Sherry Binder at the time. Yes, ma'am. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Royal Silver King,
Huh?
buried on my place.
Uh-huh.
I don't know much about it. It's hard to find much about it. You remember it?
I do. Jody Gallion, right?
He disappeared for several years.
Yeah, I didn't follow his career, so I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. Yep. Anybody else?
So wasn't this absolutely amazing? At all. The only thing that's, I just wish we could just replay it. In fact, you stay here, where are you going? In fact, I still have some recordings of Kathy when I rode that I recorded that I still listen to now, you know, a decade later. About, do your job. So I want to tell you something really special too. And thousands of horses and seen them over their career. And this little moment you had in 1 hour imparted decades of knowledge and information. And while it was entertaining and fun and inspirational, take time today to make your notes about the things that you learned, that you were ready to hear today, that was delivered just for you. And be sure that you thank these ladies for everything that they're giving you.